Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television from the capital and hub of Nigeria, Lagos. I am Henry Ibibike. We kick off today with our newspapers, and right after that will be our main conversation also. Please do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can always find and reach us when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. We're very so honored to have with us joining us via Zoom Emeka Madunagu, journalist, public affairs analyst, to see through all that we have. Good morning to you, Emeka, and welcome.
Good morning. Pleasure.
Thank you so very much for your time. All right, so let's kickstart quickly with the Guardian newspaper. How waning funding, legal aid keep 53,460 pre-trial inmates in jail. Emeka, I would love to believe this is disturbing. There are more people in our jails today than some countries, the populations of some countries around the world. How disturbing is this matter that some or more people are in jail that actually shouldn't be there?
Yeah, thank you. Basically, it's all about our flawed judicial system. There are many pretrial inmates, even some ghost inmates, whose files are missing, who are just, thrown into remanded, for no just cause. Even there are cases, some of them, were, framed and put into jail by rogue security agents, rogue policemen, conniving with lawyers, and with, fraudulent magistrates. So that is the dilemma we have in the society. The justice system has gone rogue. The criminal justice system is skewed against the people. And you see, legal aid should actually stand for people who don't have the means to engage a lawyer. But I mean, generally, a lot of these people are poor. They're indigent. A lot of the people are indigent. 53,000. You can imagine what are 53,000 people doing in custody. Without a trial. What are 53,000 people doing in custody without trial? It doesn't speak well of our justice system. It doesn't speak well of our country, So, what it means is that prison reforms are overdue. These things have been talked about again and again. You see street traders clamped into custody, in the states. So, there is a need now to, decentralize, to fully, activate the decentralization of prisons, decentralize them, have state prisons, have local government prisons. If possible, prisons managed by private consent, on behalf of governments, so that it will be easier to track prisoners, to track correctional center inmates, sorry, not prisoners, correctional center inmates. It will be easier to track them, and then we'll not have this number of people in custody. So I think it's important that we look at it, you see, and then Nigerians should also, Nigerians who have the means, should also look into, visiting correctional centers from time to time to pay bail for people, who cannot afford them. There are people in correctional centers who cannot afford bail, as little as 20,000 naira, So I know people have been doing that. Then the chief justices, or, the chief judges of the respective states should also look into how to use their periodic visits to these correctional centers to free people, who are affected by these things. And then decongest the correctional centers. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Emeka, because of, as much as we talk and look at the judicial system, we equally need to look at the people who are major stakeholders, and those are the lawyers. Unfortunately, last year I attended the NBA National conference 2024, and during a fireside discussion where they were discussing pro bono, we had less than 20 lawyers that were there. Every other lawyer wasn't interested in pro bono because they felt it was a waste of their time. Why would they be doing a job for free? And that is a growing problem. So when we do not have lawyers who are ready to stake their neck and ensure that all of these things are nipped in the bud, then it's a growing issue. And from one judicial discourse to another, Emeka, let's take a look at Falana Ezekwesili. Task lawyers on socio-economic rights and electoral act. I do not know. You watched the viral video of Ezekwesili addressing the lawyers at the NBA national conference in Enugu, and all she had to say. What have you got to talk about that particular matter, Emeka? If you did see the viral video of Ezekwesili addressing them. Emeka, are you there?
Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Yeah. It's the question. She really beat. I mean, she was even telling them that possible next time they invite her, she won't come. You were talking about, I mean, lawyers not wanting to go into pro bono. I sympathize with them because the economy is really, really difficult right now. So people, you know, I mean, there are lawyers who have actually done a lot, you know, in terms of, you know, serving pro bono and all of that. But at the end of the day, the economic conditions, you know, still kick in. So looking at these, you know, socioeconomic conditions, it's affecting everybody. Much of, and like 70 or 80% of the crimes in Nigeria are, you know, are being instigated by socioeconomic factors. So it is something to look into, because what it shows is that, you know, everybody is affecting everybody. It's affecting everybody. And all hands must be on deck. I mean, we need, in terms of legal aid, we need a fund. Federal government needs to set up a fund that can take care of those little things. Then again, non-custodial sentences. Non-custodial sentences is not everything that you send people to prison for. There are things you can grant bail. I think the justice system also needs a review. The laws also need a review. You can grant people, you know, non-custodial sentences. I mean, whereby they even serve, like what the government is doing, that clean the gutters, clean the environment, you know, do some charitable work. You know, I mean, the idea is to reform people. It's not to harden them, throw them into, you know, conditions where they become hardened and become a nuisance society. Okay, look at some people who have been freed from custody for one reason or the other. You know, I mean, you see some of them return to prison so quickly, you know, return to crime so quickly. Why? Because they have been, you know, they haven't been so much, you know, so many efforts. There hasn't been much effort to reform, to even transform people. So it's as if we just feel, oh, throw people in jail and that's the end of the story. But what we do is that we end up creating, you know, putting them into conditions whereby they become worse than when they went in. So there must be a holistic reform. Thank you.
All right, and of course, the "do you know who I am" syndrome, you know, partly can be linked to all of this. Just like you said, there are issues that shouldn't, you know, go as far as what you've talked about, but because of "do you know who I am" syndrome, you know, people make other people suffer unjustly just for them to serve their ego, unfortunately. Emeka, Igbo leaders demand binding MOU for 2027 support as ABGA backs Tinubu. If you take a look at this report, it looks like the entirety of the Igbo people are saying that they are supporting President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. How do we distill this, you know, such that when we hear stories like this, it won't be generalized?
First of all, throw that story into the trash can. There are no Igbo leaders, no genuine Igbo leaders met anywhere, just some imposters, some hirelings that just made themselves, met somewhere and issued statements that carry no weight in anything. It's sad that Ohaneze, since Senator John Azutambata became president, has virtually fizzled out. I mean, they just keep quiet and imposters, use their names to issue statements. And I'm just hoping, I hope one day these imposters will not bring problems to Ohaneze and then they will be forced to wake up. That's why, people have been talking of younger and more vibrant leaders in Ohaneze. You don't have to take old men, tired old men into, Ohaneze. You should look for younger people who are bold, courageous, who are standing on their own, financially independent. They don't have to depend on politicians. I mean, you saw what happened in NBA, the NBA annual general conference in Enugu. Because they have a vibrant leadership right now. So you saw how people turned up, in Enugu. You saw the camaraderie. You saw, the interest. So, I mean, even though there have been projections that, Enugu is unsafe, kidnapping Enugu and all of that. But at the end of the day, did you hear anything about lawyers being kidnapped? So some of these things are just orchestrated. Talking about Igbo leaders supporting, asking for them, it's just some crooks looking for how to feed themselves. That's all. Looking for how to feed themselves. Igbos, by our culture, by our tradition, Igbos are Republican in nature. So there isn't this head mentality, that the leaders have said, or that the leadership has said, and so everybody must follow. No, the Igbos don't reason that way. We do respect their cultures where such exists, but in the Southeast, it's not among the Igbos, it's not like that. So, giving Tinubu promises, they know those who are orchestrating this fake agenda, they know themselves. And they know that all that they are pushing forward has no weight in gold. So let them just continue deceiving themselves. Thank you.
Very true, Emeka. Let's look at the Punch newspaper for a bit, and we have on the bottom strip there, jailed monarch Osun to obtain U.S. court's judgment. Emeka, don't you think already this is a smear on the Nigerian perspective and perception already? Then the question is, why should Osun desirous of obtaining a U.S. court judgment when it is very clear the monarch himself had admitted to have been a fraud? And how much of this is hitting back on Nigeria? And why would Abike Dabiri not equally step into this particular case? Is this something we're missing?
There is nothing to step into. It's a clear case of fraud and criminal conspiracy. This traditional ruler is not the first Nigerian or American or foreigner, living in the United States to be convicted of fraud. If you go to the website of the U.S. Department of Justice, you will see different cases. Americans and foreign nationals, are indicted, prosecuted, jailed for different offenses. So we should not make unilateral, because when you see government saying they will obtain the judgment, what it's just telling you is that, look, the matter as far as they are concerned is dead. The man is traditional ruler. There has been pressure for them to, for him to be deposed. But the question arises that there is an allegation that another traditional ruler, there's another traditional ruler who is who is alleged to be an ex-convict as well. So why would you allow such a person? And then you now want to, you're now talking of deposing somebody who had just been convicted. So all of those things, it's just politics, plain politics. Maybe, trying to buy time. But well, all in all, justice has been served. And the accused and, his co-accused, they pleaded guilty. So it's not as if they were falsely accused. They pleaded guilty. And maybe that's why their sentence was even reduced. Because if they are pleaded not guilty and they had been actually found guilty, perhaps they would have received, higher sentences. So justice has been served, and I think the Osun State government should just act in a sensible manner, in not trying to maybe disparage the judgment, so that it doesn't affect, like you talked about, it doesn't further, negatively affect the perception of Nigerians and of Nigeria. It doesn't cast us as a country that, tolerates the abuse of judicial process, that tolerates disrespect for judicial process, even though that's what we see. We see that in our country. But let's not export our, let's not export our, these kinds of perceptions abroad. Thank you.
All right, and of course, the monarch has been given 56 months to serve, close to about 5 years. And to err is human. Abike Deborah is not here to speak on behalf of him, unfortunately. We have the Vanguard, the Mecca, just before we leave today. Uzodinma raises minimum wage to 104,000 naira. Imo workers jubilate. Is there any reason for... Is this a Trojan horse? First off, is this a Trojan horse? Is this sustainable? Why is Hope Uzodinma doing this at the very edge of his going out? Anything you have to say about this, Omega?
Yeah, well, I think it's okay to raise the minimum wage. After all, Imo State, in the first 2 quarters of 2025, it has had one of the lowest recurrent budgets, and in fact has one of the best performing budgets for capital projects. I think Imo State, Imo State followed by Enugu State. Imo State has the best in terms of states that have spent about 15.75% of their capital budget actually on infrastructural projects. Imo State leads. So if they are trying to improve service delivery and make their workers, their civil servants, to be better motivated, I think it is. It is welcome. It is welcome. It is a good idea, and I salute them. Yeah, when you say sustainable, when you pay people, when people are well remunerated, they are better motivated to put in their best, and sincerely speaking, even that money is not even a lot of money. How much is it? The 70,000 minimum wage, national minimum wage, just $50. So this 104, you will just be talking about maybe $70. What can $70 do for a family? It's not even a lot of money. The NLC and TUC had actually recommended 650,000 naira as a minimum wage. I mean, can you imagine a professor in a university earning 525,000, monthly, after putting in so many years, in terms of putting in so many years, into lecturing, writing, and all of that, and then just earning 525,000. So it doesn't translate to so much. It's just about maybe $300 a month or so. Where does that leave us? Whereas there are contemporaries in Ghana, in South Africa, and much, much, much more than that. So that 104 is not so fantastic. It's not such a fantastic figure, because for me, I think salary should not just be about, what they get at the end of the month. There should also be other certain benefits. There should be certain benefits that can, ginger the workers to put in their best. That may not necessarily be, that may not necessarily be about salaries, but monthly, maybe certain benefits. Yeah, certain benefits. If you give them a high, what we call basic salary, so that means that their pensions will be high. That's another way. You can actually even give them, let's say, 300,000 naira minimum wage. But you put part of it, a substantial part, into a bond that will mature at the end of their service. So when you give them these bonds, you can exchange these bonds for different things, But it's not just everything that has to do with our salaries, That we should upgrade our thinking, the way we do things. We should upgrade our thinking so that we can encourage people to do better. They can have access to things like, credit, have access to purchase properties, have access to educational, loans, take care of their children, and all of that. Not necessarily, having to do with what they collect every month, because inflation will eat everything. But if, let's say, you say, okay, the minimum wage is maybe 300,000, and then you say, okay, no, 150,000 out of it. We're going to take 150,000 out of it. We're going to take maybe 50,000. It will be sort of credit, sort of a guarantee, serve like a bank guarantee, a collateral for you to get credit, get a loan to do one thing or the other. Yes, so it will stand for your, it will stand, for you when you want to get credit to do one thing or the other. So, and in that way, we will better motivate Nigerian workers. Thank you.
So whenever you see military or police personnel in uniform, they hardly pay for their transport fare, from one place to another. One would expect also that civil servants in Imo State should be given that opportunity, such that at least the 104,000 can take them home and not possibly finishing up before they even get home. Congratulations to Imo State. I'd love to believe other neighboring states. Anambra can equally follow suit. Abia can equally follow suit. The South region, Delta, Akwa Ibom can equally follow suit because of there's so much money, according to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for the governors to spend. The question is, where do they keep some of this money? That in a bit. We'll be returning for our main conversation. ASUU threatens a strike over poor pay as professors earn less than $525,000, 525,000 naira monthly, not dollars, naira. That in a bit is still Enterprise Morning, gentlemen. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.